Yeah, hi everyone. In this session, we are going to discuss about what are the basic components which involving to build effective system designs. Okay, so while building new architecture for your applications, okay, what are the components we should keep in mind, which will help us to build effective and robust system applications. Okay, so yeah, so we should know about what is APIs, what are the types of APIs we can build it. Generally, it's a kind of communication protocols. So, what are the types? It's there that we have to keep in mind. What is CDN, content delivery network, and then what is the difference between proxies and reverse proxies, and then we should know about what is domain name system, how it's generally being used, and what is caching, and what are the caching strategies available, and then what is distributed caching in distributed environment. Okay, and then what is API gateway, and then we should know about what is load balancing, and then what are the types of load balancing is available, and then what are the types of databases available, and then when to choose which databases, so that we should know about, and what is the difference between SQL versus no SQL. Okay, and then what are the database indexes, generally how it helps to improve the query performance, that we should know about it, and then what are the consistency patterns which will help us to replicate the data, make sure the data consistent in all the environment, what are the patterns are available, that we should know about, what are the heartbeats, what is the heartbeats, what is the purpose of using heartbeats, and then what is circuit breaker, and what is the purpose of circuit breaker in the distributed system, and what is item potency. Okay, and then we are going to discuss about what is database scaling. Okay, when you are building the application for a large crowd, large users count, so how database scale by itself, and then what is data replication, and what is data redundancy, and what is database sharding, and what are the database architectures is available, and then what is failover mechanism, how we can implement it failover mechanism, and then what is bloom filters. Okay, and then what is message queues, generally how it decouple the uh, data processing in you by using message queues, and then what is web sockets which help us to display and do the process everything in real time. Okay, and what is checksums which will help us to transfer the data from one service to another service uh, in proper way, like it will help us to make sure the data is properly transferred from sender to receiver, so that will help us to do it. And then what how to build microservices, what are the guidelines, what are the things we have to follow it. And then what is distributor locks, when you are working distributed environment, definitely we will face some run conditions, like deadlock issues in the shared resources, how locking mechanism will effectively uh, help us to improve the system performance. Okay, yeah, these are the concept we are going to discuss about it. Let's go one by one. Okay, so first, APIs, application programming interfaces. APIs enables communication between different software systems. There are three different types in use case in real world. REST API stateless, is generally stateless, resource oriented, and HTTP based. We can implement HTTPS also. We can implement for a secure connections. And then graphical, which is flexible queries, which is single endpoint, will help us to make the API calls. Okay, in the API call, we can define our what is our input payload, what is our output expected payload, that everything we can define it. And then what is gRPCs? So gRPC is preferred one for a microservices communications in backend services. Okay, which is providing high performance, which is binary protocols, and using HTTP2 protocols, it's using it. So generally API gateway and apps in services are generally providing these features. And then what is content delivery network? The network which is distributed in all over the world, all over the regions, okay, to catch and deliver the content closer to the users. Okay, it reduce the latency, improve the performance. Edge locations, generally these are the edge locations, edge computing concept. So all the most of the like nearby users, like most of the regions, um, users nearby the particular region, they can get the catched content, they can get it catch content for fast data delivery. Okay, so general services for a In AWS, they are providing CloudFront, which is for a CDN. Okay. And then what is proxies and what is reverse proxies? Proxies generally what it will do, it will forward the client request to external services, which is VPN. Okay. And then reverse proxies forward the request from clients to backend service, which is Nginx tool. Okay. So in AWS Global Accelerator is there and CloudFront is there. Okay. And then what is domain name system? It resolves the domain names to IP address. So generally we don't remember all the IP address details. So to resolve the issue, there is a domain name concept. It comes. So domain names DNS generally it maps the domain name with the IP address. There are various different types of DNS is available. Domain name register is available. A record, C name, TTL. A record is maps the domain name to IP address. C name it maps one domain name to another domain. When if you want to redirect, when the particular domain name it comes, it's entered in the browser. If you want to redirect to some other domain name, you can use C name type. You can use it, and then time to live, which is cache duration for DNS responses. Generally, Route 53 is a service provided by AWS for a DNS. And then what is caching? Caching is a mechanism. Caching is technique temporarily store the frequently accessed data to improve the performance. Okay, so two different types, which is read cache and write cache. Read cache reduce the database reads, and write cache reduce the buffers writes for a performance. AWS services wise, we can see elastic cache, which is using, we can use Redis or memcache, we can use it. And then what is caching strategies available? There are various caching strategies available, which is write through. Okay, write to the cache and databases simultaneously, and read through cache fetches the data and catch what are the data is missed in cache, so that is read through. And then lazy loading, which is catch only when requested, when the requested happen at the time only we can do the catching. And then what are the eviction strategies? What are the cache eviction strategies? There are two different things, which is least frequently used, LRU catch, and then another LRU strategy, and another one is LFU, least recently used and least frequently used. These are the eviction policies we can see. And then when you are using distributed environment, how we can do the distributed catching? Catch spread across multiple nodes for a scalability. Consistent hashing is the main mechanism used to manage the cache distributions. Okay, so in distributed caching system we can see elastic cache for a disk cluster mode. Okay, and then what is the API gateway? It manage, monitor, and secure our API REST APIs. Okay, so it provide various services. It's throttling, rate limiting, and authentication by using OAuth 2 and JWT. These are the things it's providing it. So from AWS side, we can see API gateway and app sync. We can see it. And then what is load balancing? Load balancing generally it will distribute the traffic across the multiple servers to ensure availability and performance. Okay, and then there are various types of load balancing is available, which is network load balancing and application level load balancing. It's load balancing, it act in layer 4, which only supporting TCP and UDP protocols, API calls, protocol communications. And then layer 7 is HTTP and HTTPS. It's application layer level node network application layer load balancing, which is called ALB. And strategies, they are following round robin, least connection, and IP hash. These are the algorithms they are following it for load balancing with the distributed system. And then in AWS side, we can see elastic load balancer, ALB and NLB, we can see it. And then what are the different types of databases we have? So we have a relational databases, which is SQL, structured tables, it's which following ACID complaint. Another example is Postgres. And another one type is NoSQL, which is flexible schemas. So like we don't want to worry about the schema definitions. Okay, if it can scale dynamically. Okay, so the schema type also scale dynamically. So DynamoDB is one of the NoSQL we have in real world, and time series databases available, which is store the details over the time. Okay, so one of the databases InfluxDB. And then we have a key value stores also we have, which is fast lookups. So which is one of the example is Redis. And another one database is graph databases, which is generally using it for relationships, like network relationship, networking related data. If you want to store, we can use graph databases. Generally it's being used in social media platforms. So in the kind of follow request and the followers following and then connection request, what are the social media networks we can with with using relationship kind of data set, we can use graph database. Okay, so the database is called Neptune, which is available in the market. Okay, so these are the various database types is available. And then what is difference between SQL and NoSQL, when we have to use SQL and when we have no NoSQL? If you are clear about the schema type, schema definition, we can go with the SQL. If you are not sure about the schema definitions like data details, so we can go with NoSQL. Okay, the scalability perspective, SQL is vertically scaling. It will increase the vertical scaling means it will additionally add the RAM row. Horizontal scaling means it will add additional servers. Okay, that is NoSQL. Consistent wise, it's a strong consistency SQL is following. NoSQL is eventually consistent, it's following it. An example is SQL Postgres, and NoSQL example is DynamoDB and MongoDB. And what is indexing in database? Indexing is speed up the queries by organizing the data for effective lookups. Okay, what are the algorithms? It's generally it's following it. It's following B tree data structure. It's following general purpose indexing. It's following it, and bitmap has it's also there effective for low cardinality columns, and has indexes also there, which is key based lookups. Okay, these are the key database indexes is available. And then what is consistency patterns? Generally, consistency, it will help us to make sure data is available, data is applicable in all the distributed environments. Okay, so what are the patterns are available? Strong consistency, immediate consistency after write, which the example is Aurora. And eventually consistency achieved over the time, which is DynamoDB defaulted configurations. And casual consistency, operations are seen in casual order. These are the different consistency patterns are available. And then what is heartbeats? Generally, what is the purpose of being used? Periodic signals sent by the system to confirm it's active. Okay, so it will help us to find out this particular system is active or not. And then it generally being used in distributed system to for failover detections. Okay, so we can see in AWS CloudWatch alarms is being used, and a load balancer also, it has some health check endpoints. Okay, generally we have to enable health check endpoints in our STAPs in our application. Load balancer even like every periodically it will make the AP call to the health check endpoints to make sure the particular service is available. If its load balancer is not able to reach the particular service, it will consider the service is down. Okay, so this is the heartbeat. And what is circuit breaker pattern? It prevents the system failure by stopping the request to the failing service. So like we are not sure about when the system is going to be crashed. Okay, so what circuit breaker it will do, it will periodically it will make the a request to the service to make sure service is running or not. If it's running, it will send the request to the particular service. If it's failed, then it will block the service for processing the requests. So there are three different states it's following, which is open state, half open, and closed. So open state means block the traffic when the failure exits the threshold. Okay, and half open means test the service after the timeout, and closed means which is normal operations. So the service is normal, so we can process the request. So this is the circuit breaker pattern. And another one concept is idempotency. Okay, it is an operation that produce the same result if executed multiple times. Okay, so you have a payment application, you are going to do the some payment to you purchased some product or services something. You can see the payment button. When you click the payment button multiple times, it won't allow you to do the payment multiple times. Okay, that is called idempotency. We have to implement it. So what it will do, we will provide some unique key. Okay, unique ID for each requesters. So if the same ID repeats, it will store the ID in our like in the backend cache or backend databases. It will store it. The same purpose request it comes for the same users. It will not allow to the same operations. Okay, it will make sure only once times it executed. And then another way is every time how many times if you executed, it will try to provide the same result. Okay, and then it's critical for retries in system and distributed system in the payment transactions. Then next concept is database scaling. Generally, databases, the scaling we can do it in vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. Vertical scaling adding more resources to the single node, horizontal scaling adding more nodes in DynamoDB. Like example is DynamoDB. The services wise RDS is doing vertical scaling, DynamoDB doing is horizontal scaling. Okay, and data replications. The concept is for copying the data across different servers and regions. So it is following synchronous and asynchronous strategies for a data replications. In synchronous, in real-time consistency, RDS multi-availability zone, in the which is same region, multiple availability zone, it's there, it's following synchronous data replications. You see, asynchronous data replication is lagged by performance. When the data is available in different regions, it's following asynchronous data replication, it's following it. Okay. And then what is data redundancy? Storing duplicate copies of the data for reliability. Okay. So for which is for a RAID configurations, which is for mirroring. RAID 5, RAID 1 is mirroring, RAID 5 is striping with parity. Okay, the just AWS services which is data S3 with replications. We can see same site replication, cross region replications, that we can do it. When the data is available, we can replicate the same data into some other region, some other bucket, that we can do it. So that is called data redundancy. That will help us to make our application is our data is won't loss. Okay, and then what is database sharding, which is concept to help us to subset or split our data in various submodules or subsets, which is called partitioning a database into smaller subsets. The subsets called SRE. Okay, this horizontal search and vertical sorting is there. Horizontal sorting distributes row across the search, and the vertical scaling is distributes columns across the search. So these are the two different scaling is there. And then what are the various database architecture we can see? So which is monolithic, which is centralized databases, distributed multiple database across the regions, and federated independent database for specific services, that is federated. And then what is failover? Okay, so switching to the backup system in case of failure, that is called failover mechanism. If any issue is occurs, we need some fallback, like we need a recovery systems. Okay, so that is called failover mechanism. So which is kind of disaster recovery systems. So two different is there: hot standby, active backup, and instance switch, warm standby, partial capacity standby. Okay, so what are the services is available? RDS multi availability zones is available. Okay, and then what is another one concept is Bloom filters, which is data structure for membership checks by but may what is the space efficient but may return false positive for a false negative used in cache layers. Generally, Bloom filters being used in cache layers. Okay, so, and the next one is message queues, which is generally help us to decouple the components by passing the message asynchronously for a data processing and data communications. So that being used, and then to avoid the data loss. Okay, when the system is down, that request should not be lost. Okay, so what are the strategies it's following? First in, first out, ensure the orders of the data processing message receives, and then standard queues is best for ordering, best efforts for ordering. Generally, it won't follow the order, but the data will be stored in there. So, like, and then what are the services is providing? SQS, SNS available in like AWS. And then what is WebSockets? It's a protocol for real-time and bidirectional communication. Both server and client, they can communicate each other's, okay, in real time. And then use cases like chat applications and live notifications, we can do it. It already exist. And then example services, services provided by AWS is API Gateway, WebSocket APIs. And then what is another concept is checksums. Yeah, cache computed detect the data corruptions. Okay, cyclic redundancies checks commonly used. So which is help us to make so the data is properly transferred from one service to another region, which is in AWS you can see S3 integrity checks. Okay, so when you are transferring the data from one service to another service, we have to make sure data is not corrupted. Okay, so some checksum has data will added within our data. So in the receiver side, it will be validated. and then what is generally how we can build the microservices. Okay, so we have to follow domain driven design. Okay, align the services with the business domains, and then inter service communication. What are the things we have to follow, how the services are communicated? There are three different types: REST, GraphQL, and event driven. Okay, or event driven also we can follow it, and observability also we have to follow it. That will help us to track the performance of our applications, which is logs, metrics, and traces. Okay, what are the services we can see in AWS is ECS, AppMesh, and CloudWatch. Okay, and then finally, which is a distributed locking mechanism, which will help us to save your resources when multiple requested comes, multiple services are trying to access the some service, some resources, some deadlock and race conditions will occur. So so distributed locking is one of the preventing solutions, I would say. Ensures mutual exclusions in distributed system, challenges clock skew and race conditions. The implementations is red lock algorithms with Redis. Okay, so one of the services is elastic catch. So that following distributed lock in distributed environment in your application. Okay, so these are the concept and key components we should keep in mind, which help us to build our application in efficient way. Okay, yeah, that's it, guys. Okay, so yeah, in the next session we will discuss about use cases. Let's take any one use cases, and then we will do discuss about how to do the system design for the particular use cases. Okay, yeah, that's it, guys. Yeah, thank you everyone.